Vamos começar a segunda parte da FNCS e já vai começar aí, ó. Já começou. Vamos lá.
That's crazy. The weather change here in Germany. Suddenly a cold front's coming in. That's right. It happened. I cannot believe this just happened. Game number one. Golden Rapid come out swinging.
Come out swinging, man. A big change in strategy too. We look up, it's like, what the heck? Golden Rapid are up on the high ground. Doesn't typically watch NA, man. Usually you can find these guys mid-ground, low-ground, kind of feeling comfortable down there, but you heard him after that. Yeah, man, kind of just sent it.
Yeah, and he said it was free too, which is the most interesting part. I mean, if we looked before that, there were so many high retakes. They just took it at that perfect moment, and I mean, it was just playing it by the book after that. But they secure a nice clean win. Look at the amount of eliminations that Cold is just picking up back to back to back. These AR shots do not miss.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be all about the refreshes. You can see them continually picking up all of those eliminations, and we were kind of jumping around from POV to POV when we were watching Height kind of get crazy, right? When we saw like 4 different teams kind of find themselves up on the high ground over the course of, what was that, like 60 seconds? The material counts for all of those teams were just so shitty that they had no chance to actually hold it for the rest of the game. So when you tune into a team like Golden Rapid, they are picking up those eliminations, they are picking up those refreshes, they're picking up those extra materials. They are in a healthy enough spot to actually go for the high ground and hold it, and that is exactly what they did.
Absolutely crazy stuff out of Cold and Rapid. Remember, we just need to be in the top 25 to secure ourselves a spot in on Sunday for finals. And after this game, I feel like we are looking really, really good. I can't wait to see the standings as well, because remember, all of these dudes are thinking the same thing. We just need that good game. We need to make sure we're keeping up in the top 25. But seriously, Cold and Rapid, what the heck? I love that you kind of call out. What are they doing on high ground? What's crazy too is even looking in for a moment there, Clicks and Higgs decide, hey, we're going to go for this height. And everyone in the lobby was like, hey, don't let that happen up there. What are we doing?
No, Clicks and Higgs actually had a very good approach to that high ground. Ritter was like, oh my gosh, they're getting a free chop. They get the chop. The high ground team's kind of falling down. They had no mats. They were just like that close from actually stealing away the high ground. But unfortunately, yeah, the lobby was like, well, no, we're not going to let that happen.
Not today. Well, look, guys, after that last win, guess what? We've got a listen-in from that moment. Take a look.
I'm going to talk to you in a second. You're not really connected by much. I should have like made it too nice.
Looks like that's a high team. If you see that bomb, make sure you comment.
So they just gotta make sure like.
Gente, não vai ter como. Esse cara não vai sair daqui. Vamos ter que ficar aqui.
We can jump down to the side of the hill and get a little bit closer to them.
Aqui, ó.
Take that in.
Yeah, do it.
Yeah, missing this one.
Não, do outro lado.
You can stay up if you want. You can stay up.
I like that.
51. Yeah, I'm watching. Nice.
Hey,
let's go, baby. Come on, let's go.
Calm, cold, collected is how this duo was feeling. And I mean, look, they were excited, but it looked like it was just another day in the battle bus. I mean, it just looked like a normal day for this duo. The confidence is there. We heard it in the pre-game interview, and now closing it out. Look, there is one thing I do want to bring up here. It's not my EU bias, I promise. Not my EU bias, but all the top 3 teams that were in that final zone.
At the northeast side of the map, we had a northeast zone.
Put that out there. All right, let's take a look at standings real fast. We got to take a look at how everything else is shaping up for the rest of the lobby already. Look at the points, aren't crazy, but want to highlight here for you, second place, Yapko and Panther. Showing up in this 2v2 NA versus you, I'm sorry, being unbiased. This was crazy, right? We even saw some shots out of Yapko and Panther taking down Rate and Cooper, just crazy.
I mean, shout out to the 3 duos here, right? You had Cold and Rapid, obviously, you know, full chilling up on the high ground, and then you had Yapko and Panther, one of the only 3 duos left, and the other duo that was kind of alive in the mix once we got into the top 10 was Reed and Cooper. But as soon as Yapko and Panther kind of had an opportunity to take it to Reed and Cooper on the low ground, I'm not gonna lie, it happened so fast. Panther and Yapko just hit some clean shots. Watch this kind of phase in right here. Clean shots from both of them to go ahead and secure the second place. And in the mix, we also see Hero off in the distance. distance. Hold up,
Hero. 8X FNCS champs as a duo. But yeah, Yepko Panzer, they were out of match. They made the aggressive play, and it worked. I was getting a little nervous for Cold there when the initial shot from Panzer came through, but in the end, Cold Rapid did take the win. But hey, second place, kicking things off. As a reminder, it is top 25 to move on to Sunday. So all of these teams we just saw are looking incredibly strong.
That's right, man. Every single interaction is going to matter, right? We only have 6 games to end in the top 25, and as you kind of called out, we saw Hero from Middle East in that moment top 3 as a solo, mind you, in the chaoticness that is this crazily stacked lobby. Hero shows up big and clutches.
Yeah, I mean, you got to be feeling good after a game like that for all of these teams that are picking up just so many points. Be curious to do some math over the course of the day to kind of get some expectations for what top 25 will actually look like. But yeah, game 1 right here coming out of the gate swinging. It might just be the only game some of these teams really need to actually pick up enough points.
Yeah, a lot of the pressure is lifted after that for these teams that got not only top 3, even top 5. I know FKS Hero, they're happy they switched to South Lotte landing for this day. The question is, I mean, FKS Hero aren't contested, but for example, Cold Rapid are. So now they have kind of that freedom, that lifted pressure to play a bit more aggressive now.
I will say though, Cold Rapid were kind of expected, like you said, to be contested. I don't think they were in that game. They did actually take advantage of some of the contestation that's kind of going on towards Sandy. That's where they picked up some of their early elims, picked up some of that early surge that they could kind of, snowball into the end game. So keep an eye on the early game towards that way.
And I do just have to wonder, obviously this being the first game in this environment for many of these teams, maybe it's their first time. There's a lot of jitters, right? When you kind of get put in this situation, you're not at home and in the comfort of your home, the comfort of your setup, you don't have your shoes kicked off, you don't have your desk a certain way, right? Your monitors, this is a completely different environment. So, this being game number 1, I'm just going to chalk this up to like, hey, let's get game number 1 out of the way. Now we can kick things off crazily, right?
Look, a big team that I'm looking at in terms of the pressure, the nerves, perhaps, it's Shark and Teeny. They were contested at Wonkyland by Clicks and Higgs, and this is a team that they have what it takes. They've proven that they have what it takes, but I'm sensing a bit of that pressure. I'm sensing a bit of those LAN and nerves. Now, the good news for Shark and Teeny is that they have all, upper bracket to play out, get top 25, and then if they make it through, they have a whole other 8 matches on Sunday to truly show what they're capable of.
Yeah, I mean, one of the big talking points over towards Wonky Lane was confidence levels. I mean, Clicks and Higgs, for whatever reason, played this long game, kind of talking about, hey, we're not even going to be land Wonky. And then, boom, surprise, they're here. And now Shark and Teeny might be kind of caught off guard because we can see in that early game how much respect they actually gave towards the way of Clicks and Higgs. Like, at one point, we were kind of looking around and was like, wait, whoa. Are Shark and Teeny even land in Wonky? They did eventually land, but they took, like, such little loot that Clicks and Higgs were kind of given almost the entire POI for free.
It's crazy too how long I felt like that fight went on, right? Like, when we saw these practice games, don't want to dig too much into those, but we saw this go a certain way, and to see like this super long, we're in the zone, and even in that situation where Shark was by himself, it's like, oh man, let's close it up. Shark's like, oh hey Higgs, go down to 3 HP, hold on a minute. I was like, wait, hold on, is he about to come back? Is he about to clap back?
It's funny, when we were watching that, I remember Zeke was telling me, he's like, so God, I think they're taking a little too long, like this fight has staggered out too long. I'm like, it's staggered out too long 10 minutes ago, right? Like, they've been here way too long. This is not finishing, so the pressure, it might be on both ends, but Clicks Higgs are definitely looking more confident for now.
I would say one of the big talking points coming into this weekend was the NA on NA action. One of those instances, of course, was Cooper and Reet versus Aiders and Ritual. They did not fight in the early game, but we actually see both of those teams find themselves in the top 10, right? Cooper and Reet in 4th place right there, Aiders and Ritual in 7th place. So honestly, I feel like both teams potentially kind of feeling comfortable splitting that split chop up towards the north side of the map. I know Reet and Cooper were kind of talking about it. Hey, if the day is going bad for either one of us, I'm expecting the fight to be taken by maybe somebody, but I don't really expect it to happen, right?
I mean, I don't know. Time will tell. What I'm seeing is a lot of NA teams on that top 10, top 5 on the leaderboard, so I'm curious to see if that trend's going to continue, or we might see things mix up a little bit as the day goes on.
Absolutely, and I wanted to focus here on Cammy and Hari, right? We saw them for a little bit, right back on height. And Tokata, you were saying, wait a minute, is this a blast in the past or what?
Look, if I was a couple years ago and I'm, sitting down and I hear you come and tell me, hey, 2026, we're at an international event, it's Cammy Hari. They win the first game on high ground. I mean, there's a duo. Cammy has already been ahead of the meta, but it was more a low ground team you would expect. But now recently in 2026, especially going to duos, we have seen them play a bit more high ground. We have seen them play a bit more aggressive. If you think back to Cammy and Seti, they haven't been the strongest fighters. And now I am seeing a lot more confidence with this duo.
And you're talking about kind of controlling the high ground, but any single time we see one of our duos kind of take high ground around 8th zone, anytime we kind of tune into POV, immediately turn your eyes to their material account, which is exactly what I did right here when it was the case of Cammy and Hari, because yeah, they had high ground. They had 30 builds to work with. Like, you're in 8th zone, you got so much more Fortnite to play after that. There's no way you can kind of continue throughout the rest of the end game with that material count. You're going to have to make something happen, which is why I'm always a big fan of judging any of those type of plays where the early high ground takes kind of happen.
Yeah, I mean, when you take height with that low math, it's kind of an all or nothing. You got to get a refresh then and there because you're not going to be able to keep building out. You're not going to get forward height. Like, you are all or nothing in those moments, and the amount of teams that tried taking height after that, not only Clicks Higgs, it was just back to back until eventually Cold and Rapid at the perfect moment took it, and they had a good amount of materials. So it was a pretty, by the book cleanup.
Yeah, what's interesting too is remember, like, obviously when we watch these things, there is an overarching meta, right? But then the moment we not even just summit, right? It doesn't matter what stage of the competition is. There's always a meta within that meta that develops. And so it's interesting that, like, even in this game one, that high ground really, no one was willing to just let it go. How many times have we seen just like, oh, hey, a team just showed up and on high ground and they've just been up there. We keep saying the same thing, hey guys, let's look up, but hit the summit, everyone's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I'm just gonna peek up, someone's up there, let me just help that out.
Yeah, I mean, the end games obviously are going to play out extremely differently from game to game. I do want to kind of turn our conversation over to the early game. Obviously, we did talk a little bit about wonky lane, right? We got Clicks and Higgs versus Sharkatini. Obviously, because Clicks and Higgs are landed over there at wonky lane, guess who's going to be uncontested? Peterbottom Plyo over at Squibbly. With that being said, right, they want to be uncontested. They don't want to take that early fight off spawn, that is. Early fights are kind of their bread and butter. You can see they're kind of pushing around the map, but I feel like they kind of got humbled a little bit that game.
Look, I'm going to shout out my man, Levin2K here, because we were talking to Pete yesterday, and there's this thing that, happens every now and then. Pete gets really confident. He goes in quickly to try and get a quick finish, but either he takes a big loss of shield and HP, and then he has to heal up. Pollo makes it there, they take the fight again, and they win it. That's pretty standard. They get a bunch of eliminations over time, but you're in an international event. I mean, if you go down, you can see it kind of just sets you up for a staggered situation. Zone pulled, east from them after that. I think you got to kind of just, focus up, take the competition a bit more seriously.
Interesting stuff. I'm actually curious. You guys kind of talked about this early game and, Clicks and Higgs versus Sharkatini. We actually have elicited from the beginning of the game. Let's take a look.
It's a keyboard player. We're double scroll wheel. Yeah. They have to sidekick us so they guarantee lose. Yeah. I'm trying to think, bro. Why are they doing this?
Bro, because they want to have a good game one.
I don't think they landed here, bro.
I didn't see them, bro. God, I didn't.
I saw one short, but it could have been for jungle.
I'm going to throw a fake shot.
Okay.
Ready?
Yeah, go.
Stay crouch.
40, cracked. No, not cracked, not cracked. Gotta make a noise. Nice, coming.
Tá pega.
Come King Shark.
Mataram.
Just so crazy. I love it.
Eu nem vi
This is
como
like
essa
what's
partida, eu tô
the best
podendo
part of the lane is immediately getting to
aqui.
hear directly from the players. Even in that moment, right? Like, what a crazy play. Hey, I'm setting up a fake shot. And you even saw there, Shark's like, oh, I heard it. Oh, wait.
And you got to think, right, for Sharkatini, over the course of the rest of the weekend, they're going to be thinking about that moment. Any single time they hear one of those overdrives come, they're like, wait a minute, I don't know if they're actually... Yeah, exactly. I think it's also pretty cool that we kind of listen in at a pretty pivotal part of that early game in the sense that Clicks and Higgs were kind of confused as well. They were like, wait a minute, like, did they land there? Like, where were they? He was like, oh, I think one landed sure. I think one was like over there. So they actually didn't even kind of know what was going on. I mentioned that. I was like, wait a minute, are they even going to land there on them? So Clicks and Higgs are kind of feeling the same sentiment.
I was just as confused because Sharktini had a very similar drop to Demish and Darn, who are, I mean, they're close to Wonky Land, but it's a completely different drop, and they were like in the same height. I'm like, what's going on here? Like, where are they? It was the same confusion that Clicks and Higgs were having, but then the fight ended up staggering a lot. But as we saw, that overdrive play, I mean, that worked incredibly well. It got them a pick. They were put in a 2v1, and Higgs did get dropped to maybe like 5-10 HP, but in the end, they won the fight, and that's really what matters.
Absolutely. So, guys, what do you think? Again, we're just trying to be the top 25. We're trying to be the upper half of the lobby after these 6 games, 5 more. What do we need to change for game number 2?
I mean, for a lot of these teams, it's got to be the early game. Obviously, we've talked a lot about the teams who kind of found success during that game, but I feel like when we jumped into the game and watched for like a minute, there was like 90 players alive super fast, which means that basically 5 teams instantly went down, which is kind of to be expected because we know that there is a lot of teams that are kind of contesting each other around the map. The approach to the early game is going to be the difference for a lot of these teams.
Well, it's time to see if they can make those adaptations again. This is game number 2. Nobody freak out. I'll do it for you. Casters, over to you.
Hey, game 1 did not disappoint, that is for sure, Jacob. I mean, I know that we were definitely expecting to see a little bit of those drawn-out fights. The original starting points getting a little shaky, but it's going to be an uphill battle for some of these teams already.
Yeah, you kind of look at the Clicks and Shark fight over at Wonky Land. Even though Clicks didn't have the most phenomenal performance, they outplayed Shark and TD. Can that repeat? Game 2 is here.
Já vai começar. Segundo game. Vamos lá.
As each game passes, you kind of have to look at your spot on that leaderboard. We know it's top 25 that get that qualification to Championship Sunday, and the bottom 25 have to do it again tomorrow. So you don't need to win every single game. You just need to do good enough.
For Muzz Sphinx, all they really want to win right now is the off-spawn contention. Nebs, Nathan, though, a little bit faster to the punch, but not going to be able to connect the shots. No lineup.
Eu vou criar uma comunidade
Scurry off into the building. We'll be able to gather some resources, so these two are going to have to meet head-on at a later point.
Yep. For now, it's just kind of load up, give ourselves a little bit of a fair fight. Chap, Flixie, Romero and his duo. This is something that we caught very early on. I believe it was Chap that was able to get both of those eliminations, and then we saw him down later because of the third parties. And now they both grab their respective floor loadout, and it's Flixie that gets the best of Romero first.
Tough breaking point right now for the Argentinians. Lewa going to be left to try and pick up the pieces here, but for Chap, he's now going to look to just prioritize keeping a little bit of a lockdown position here. They don't want to let Lewa escape. They would obviously love to have some more elimination points if possible. And not only that, but you got to keep your head on a swivel in these lobbies. You can never stop anticipating a third party intervening.
Yeah, just all these contested fights all over the map. I saw some action going down in the feed as well for Latte. That's not too far away from here. But Yapko, Panzer, Jonas, Fellows, they're the ones across from each other. And another one of those contested fights where, yes, they can go ahead and play aggressive towards one another, but in the early portions of this, they will at least want to give themselves a loadout so they're not playing mostly on luck.
But I don't think this is a much worse position currently for Jonas and Falos, because you have to remember, Yapko, Panzer, they've already had one solid lobby, and in a 6-game format for top 25, most of the heavy lifting has been completed. So now, Falos and Jonas, they're going to be stuck having to try and escape, stay out of Panzer and Yapko's line of sight. But Sharktini, they're looking to get more aggressive right from the start. They have gotten their revenge here in this second lobby.
I wish Zeke would ask them what they need to do different, because it feels like they did exactly that. In game 1, we saw them fly high. They didn't go to the closest drop marker down below, and that made it late to take over Wonky Land. This time around, they got aggressive. They went ahead and pushed the fight over to Clicks and Higgs. The first down is there. Clicks in a 2v1. You can see him trying to make a play with Taco. By then, it's too little, too late. Shark and Tini get their get back.
Look, I understand that Tini is definitely very strong when it comes to those lurk play opportunities, but sometimes you just gotta let Shark's natural instincts take over. That upfront and aggressive close combat sort of style is definitely going to work out in their favor, because Clicks and Higgs Higgs. We even heard it in their call-out briefly before this matchup started. They were expecting them to play it much more passive. They know that all you need is 1-2 good lobbies and you're through the top 25, and you don't want to be watching if you're Flicks and Higgs currently, because Sharktini, how many times have you seen them contested at Walkie Land? It's been happening all season long, Jacob. And sure, that was just in the EU department, but even at a global level, preventing Sharktini from converting a top spawn into a top 5 finish, I would be a little worried about that.
Yeah, you can kind of see right here, Vico Malbuka, Frigid Fortress. Wondering maybe, where did Vico get that elimination while uncontested? Well, Taka, let me tell you, he actually took down Agers from Frigid Fortress, really playing a role in that fight. Noah Riley's going to go down. Razan's going to be by himself. 1v2 situation. Well, let's see how good his practice map actually is.
Reason is doing what he can to try and get away, but Veloz looking to chase this one out. They need some kind of recovery point, but Reason, he might be running straight into the heart of where Yapko is currently based up, but Veloz might be forced to give up the chase. Don't want to expend too many resources too early on, especially when you know that Painted Bombs currently belongs to Panzer and Yapko. The juice just isn't worth the squeeze, so Reason will manage to escape, but it might only be a temporary relief because Yapko and Panzer, they might have a good idea of where exactly the solo's at.
Yeah, and you just got to be very cognizant of where the zone is actually pulling, because right now, you can kind of see the edge of it, so it seems like it might be pulling away from the northeastern part of the map. Only time will tell. Asaya, Scary, going for a lurk play. They already win their off-spawn fight, but that's not going to be enough. Quinjin Twy, it looks like they're trying to sneak up onto them that already have their base secured, so it might not be the best idea. So I do like this out of Sayaz and Scary, instead of trying to push in a fight that you might not need to go ahead and disengage and continue their game.
BOT, unfortunately, a victim of Thomas HD and Focus. That one elimination, I'm going to try and propel them forward as they're looking to get the secondary component. LB Force just barely managing to get away, but it's only going to be a short-lived instance. Focus and Thomas get a little bit of a run back here to see how exactly that all broke down for BOT, and unfortunately, yeah, Thomas just too quick with it, waiting on that opposite angle.
Yeah, it almost makes you wonder, is that a part of their strategy after kind of realizing in game one, we might need to get a little bit more aggressive for Surge, whether it's close range or long range. But Thomas, Focus, from Riptides to that elimination, they're already on the move. Sky and Scroll as well, from the north side of Battlewood. They did exactly what Veno said they should have done. Switched up their game plan, because what they were doing should not have worked. And now Sky and Scroll, instead of overstaying their welcome at Battlewood Boulevard, they instantly rotate the Dark Dominion.
I've already recognized the fact that this lobby is moving at a different pace entirely, and they don't want to be left behind. Staying one step ahead of the pack is always going to be difficult, though, especially with the way that some of these other teams are playing. Hobby and Aminish, after that first game performance, they found themselves just inside of the top 10, and they're looking to hold on to that position.
Fights don't stop. Jeff and Flixie from one to the next. They win their off-spawn fight. And sure, essentially, the Sanctuary contested themselves, but after that, you see them rotating out through the tunnel. They put themselves in a 2v1 situation. Nutty's going to be the only one down below, and there's really no options. They closed off each end, and they're really trying to make their numbers advantage work, pressuring in zone after zone. Nutty's just trying to go ahead and run away now, and this might be his only chance at survival.
Flixie sent a little bit further back than what had originally been intended there, but Chap's still willing to get Chase cut off yet again by the top of that tunnel, and that might have been just enough delay for Nutty to slip away. But even still, Jacob, relatively low on materials, doesn't have any metal, needs to get a reboot off for Gabzetta, and there are other teams still looking to try and enter New Sanctuary, and whether or not they're also a team that's hurting for some hard material, looking to try and refarm some of those elements, it's not going to be very easy for Nutty to find this reboot anytime soon.
Yeah, for Chap and Flixie, though, I like that lack of desperation for that elimination. They say, hey, he's going in New Sanctuary, he's going to have to come out eventually, and they're just going to wait instead of waiting and moving in and possibly getting lurked, just like you see Janice and Cheaton doing here to Controller. Haman, I'm not sure if he's there anywhere nearby, but he desperately needs to get some sort of a signal because they are gearing up right now to break through the wood, land a good shot on a Controller, but he got the signal just a little too late. He's in the box. They're not trying to let him out, and they do not let it happen. That first knock, that one's going to be easy. Haman is almost nowhere in sight. So for Cheaton and Janice, that was a free elimination.
They definitely need to start establishing some territory pretty soon here. Amando stuck inside of their surge base, but if he's that high up, Jacob, you have to wonder how exactly were Cheetah and Giannis able to slip by the watchtower, and now Haman forced to try and figure out, do I stick around? Am I going to be able to disengage? Or will I just be lit up the moment that I try to escape my position?
I will say the saving grace, though, for him is the zone is pulling away from that spot. So eventually, everybody will have to go, and he'll get at least a chance at that reboot card. But you can kind of see in Cheaton's inventory, literally seconds before, he had bandages in there. So you can see they're lacking a ton of loot, and that elimination's got to help them tenfold. Let's jump on our winners of game one, 101 points, Cold and Rapid. They said, hey, this one for them was a little easy. They got high ground. I don't think anybody had a chance to look up.
They were playing that first lobby as if it was an opens, Jacob. It did not seem like it was a Summit Major LAN appearance because they just had so much control and they never once hesitated with any of their decisions. So the composure very clearly matching their mentality right now. But Yuma, Toyota seems over by Frigid Fortress. Could be heating up pretty soon here. Toyota doing what he can to try and stay out of the line of sight there from Biko and Malaguca. You know, they're likely to be lurking. Rapid Coldo, they might have just caught him.
Mudei a imagem lá do canal, tá?
Completely
Coloquei o
sandwiching this
gol.
duo. They're both so low on HP, and Rapid
Eu acho que é melhor.
knows there's only one good bump shot left to make this elimination happen.
Yeah, Cold, Rapid. It almost feels like they chased these guys down in game one. That's how they're able to get their early surge and eliminations, and they're trying to stick to the game plan. Zone is moving over towards the northwestern part of the map, so as soon as they can find this elimination here and clear a path, they won't have much to worry about outside Reed and Cooper. We're at Latte Landing. They know they have their long launch pad then, so they're not in a rush either. And this has kind of been the meta this season. With the shockwaves, with the gauntlets, you can go ahead and travel a long distance in a short time. So you're seeing with the surge changes coming in, more and more teams staying inside of the zone early on.
But the bigger issue that was building there was where Cooper was actually based at. He had the full cutoff point there for Mini Pio. He's forcing them to rotate through Painted Palms, and eventually they're going to run straight into where Yapko and Panzer were at just to try and evade two other duos. So it's not like they have a clear-cut path in front of them. Meanwhile, Peterbot and Pollo, they're also taking a little bit more of a scenic tour. They definitely want to start trying to build a little bit more cushion zone in the points department because 8 is not where we would anticipate to see this duo after that first lobby.
Yeah, and underneath, Benno Curve just rotating on by. I thought for a second maybe they're just lurking around, but nope, you just can't freely pass Peterbot and Pollo when they're that high in the sky. They got a huge vision advantage over everybody else, but Benno and Curve sneaking by, making sure they don't take a single shot of damage. Up top, Peterbot and Pollo, they're going to use the Fizz, the Shockwave, that's how they're going to make it to zone. Alex and Reckless, they moved in from the far eastern side of the map over towards Sandy Strip, and typically for teams that do land on the outskirts, they do rotate into POIs just like Sandy Strip to go ahead and replenish what they're missing from their drop spot.
One above, one below, Reckless on the rooftop. Alex now starting to rotate back through his duo's building as Reed, Cooper checking back in on them, and what's been brewing here at Latte Landing, recognizing the fact that they haven't been taking that immediate engage with Agers and Ritual. These two teams from NAC kind of just recognizing the fact that maybe we play to our own strengths before we look to try and take out the other.
Yeah, and this is one of those spots I've been talking about, Latte Landing. There's a launch pad back here that takes you higher and further than most of the other launch pads on the map. And then you mix it with the Flowberry Fizz like you see Reek and Cooper doing there. You almost fly so high you're out of render distance, but Peterbot and Pollo, they didn't get that same chance. It didn't work out in the same manner. They end up in a scuffle underneath, but it's not just them. It's not just Curve and Benno who are also nearby. There are 3 teams directly here with 2 more on the outskirts.
But this isn't the first time that we've seen Pete and Pollo essentially getting cut off by Benno and Curve. I don't know what Benno's been getting up to, but it really feels like he's got a lot of cutoff points set up specifically to engage with Pete and Pollo. Could be pre-firing that we are only in game 2 after all, Jacob, but Benno, Curve, they got their damage and now they're getting out.
Yep. Go into the tunnel where they have that secret porta potty. to go ahead and teleport themselves through as Peterbot and Pollo continuing to try to move towards the west. But that's Hari and Cammy there on the other side. And they were honestly disruptors of that last game, probably being a huge focal point of why Peterbot and Pollo got down. I'm not sure if this is an act of revenge or just maybe early damage for Storm Surge. Either way, Peterbot looks to not slow down.
Não, percebi que agora o Peterbot tá atacando tudo.
Very aggressive, and that's exactly why. 143 below on Surge damage, and if they keep taking these odd shots over at Cammy and Hadi, they're bound to get a little bit of fight back here. Hadi nearly getting the finish there onto Peterbot, but good tags exchange from both ends. It's going to mean that Pete has to step back. Pollo now looking to take over that aggressive front, but Pollo eats another decent punt tag there from Hadi. Cammy doing a great job at just keeping everything closed off.
Yeah, and you see they got what they wanted. They won the exchange for the most part, but they get caught lacking. Peterbot not missing a shot, getting that first down on the Hari. But you see, Taco, they're still 27 below the damage threshold. They needed more than just a full elimination worth of damage, so they have to continue to be on the hunt. Right now, it looks like they're looking for Cammy as a solo, but you see there's plenty of opportunities right in front of them.
That went from being the dream scenario for Cammy and Hadi to an absolute nightmare. And now Cammy trying to see if he can enact his own revenge here, but Pete quick with the cutoff. Pete here to remind everybody exactly who he is in this moment, but he'll be forced to just keep things moving forward. He got the damage he was after. He doesn't want to spend any more time here on Cammy, and he's left Cammy in the dust, stuck dealing with Surge and everything else in between.
It's a 5-tick zone. There's no more heals. He has to make it in now. The timing has never been perfect. He gets into the zone. The elimination to Cammy. The siphon comes in, and now they have a Fizz. They are above the damage threshold, Taco, but when you look at their loadout, they're in desperate need of loot.
They might be able to clash with a handful more teams. It all depends on whether or not they actually want to try and make some sort of a dead side approach. You also have to remember that there are going to be other duos looking to try and scale up this mountain phase. The zones over by Wonky can be very brutal to actually retain any sort of materials, and when you are a duo that's already clinging on for just those last little bits of scraps, Chino, Pablo, kind of a similar position here. They might have a little bit of damage to be just above for the moment, but will that stay true?
Yeah, in the next zone, that's going to get flipped upside down more than certainly. See Minute down on the side of that mountain. You said it yourself, making up and scaling the summit here is going to be near impossible. Only the best will survive. Scroll, Sky, they see them down to just one individual. Sky, and he's below the damage threshold, 132, essentially needing an elimination, and he needs it now. Storm Surge will activate, and he will take that 25 damage every 7 seconds.
Probably happy to just be leeching off a Size as Flowberry Mist Grenade, but first, can he break out away from Size? Looking back, sees there is a solo behind me. He might be able to be the cutoff point, but instead, recognizing I've just got to keep things moving forward. He's such a low material count here, though, Jacob. If he can find that solo, if he can get that elimination, the refresh would buy him so much time instead of having to play for the backside of zone.
Yeah, and if climbing the mountain wasn't hard enough, Peterbot and Pollo go down before they reach the top of that mountain. The zone pulling all the way across, so we're going to go through varying different elevation changes, and if you don't have the materials, Taco, good luck to you, but Sky somehow finds a way to get above the damage threshold. 50 teams still alive, so even so, Storm Surge deactivates here. It will not officially turn off in this game until there's 40 or less players standing.
Sky is so trapped right now. Vico and Malapuka definitely sniffed out his position, but they also know why take the risk. They have the options, the opportunity to try and make their way towards the next high ground point, and Sky still as a solo from behind, takes down Science, takes out Repairs, the siphon kicking in, the lifeline has been extended, but can he actually make it up the mountain face? Another siphon to bail him out momentarily, but for Strokey, he might just be the one to shut Sky's fate down to a limit here, and Sky can't continue working his way up. He's out of this one, but at least got 3 eliminations.
Yeah, even though eliminations were good, just got no mobility from it, and that's what eventually caused his downfall. But you can see they're not going down without a fight. Our top 25 teams left in this game. That means placement points are starting to play a role. And with every team that falls, they'll cascade further and further until you get that victory royale. And obviously, eliminations make the difference throughout the test of time in FNCS. We've seen it play a role multiple times.
Guess who's on the high ground currently? It's Acorn and Bolt, and this is practically their backyard. Starting off over by Storm Station, they haven't really had to move too far away from home, and almost 1,300 damage above. They are completely smothering this lobby and not allowing anybody to even remotely consider trying to challenge them on height. All they've got to do is keep spraying out that secondary height layer, and even the duos that are trying to see if they can overdrive their way forward, they're just getting cut off entirely. Bolt and Acorn, along with the rest of the lobby, the catastrophe is taking place. No one can survive.
Yeah, as we see, they're going off the side of the mountain again, going down, maybe a little bit of hills in the way for Pablo. Chino, you see they have very little materials, no extra heals. Even though Storm Surge is no longer a worry in this game, it's about where they're going to get the elimination. And Giduo from the flank is able to get one. He gets back to back by himself to make miracles happen.
Hey, better than a last-minute fill, and what else could you possibly ask for than getting those points delivered at your front door, man? Vico, Malabuka, now looking to see if they can have +1 challenge here on height. Malabuka still looking. They're going to drop, but it's momentary. They see Tyler, Madden, Cole, too many duos. A little bit too close for comfort here. Malabuka without any material. He's waiting to see if Vico can actually play catch-up, but Vico left behind. He's just got to find his own elimination here. A refresh is everything currently, and there's no one in front of him.
Oh, we found old pills. This is absolutely perfect. No material left. Even with them both still alive, they reunite finally back into the same box. But this is where they need elimination. The zone is going to push some players over, not directly in their path, but give them a chance. Just like that, a much-needed Elim was found by Malabuka.
Yapko and Panzer are still doing their thing, though. 5 eliminations already for Yapko, 6 in total for this duo, but they know there's still a team hanging out all the way in the high ground. Will they get the chance to chop? First, we're going to bring down Giannis. Next, they're going to look towards Victor V. They're seeing if they can chop out his floor, but they just barely managing to escape in the moment. Acorn and Bolt, just look at what they are doing to the rest of this lobby. They are forcing all of these teams underneath them to just burrow underground.
Look how many builds they have, Taco, because it's going over their mountain. Yes, I said it. Acorn and Bolt, they've claimed this mountain. It pulls up towards this drop spot, and they are not letting up off the gas. This is their perfect opportunity, not only climb up that leaderboard, but potentially take first. But there's still so many waiting in the wings. You see Shark, Teeny still alive, Vico fighting for every inch in this game. He gets the down on the Darm. The siphon is needed by Vico, but the onslaught won't stop. Demus is there, trying to get revenge, but he's fallen as well. Vico stands tall.
Vico's right at home, finding that fragger opportunity, and now playing catch up to the rest of the lobby. But Shark, he's been taken out. Yapko and Panzer are going to be the first to catch up to him. Bolt Acorn still causing so much of a delay, though, in terms of where Yapko goes next. He's forced to drop, trying to just stay out of their line of sight, trying to see if he can huddle underneath some of these leftover builds. But Bolt, Acorn, they're taking their sweet time. They know that there's a handful of solos underneath them, so why rush it as Vico's clearing out the lobby all by himself?
Still trying to find more eliminations here. Top 3, most of the placement points, but essentially 2 solos against the duo of Acorn and Bolt. And now the zone pulling down the mountain again. A perfect scenario for Vico to stay alive just a little bit longer to get that top 2 situation. But now what do? You're going against Acorn and Bolt. They have 6 eliminations. They have tons of materials. They have 2 different win conditions, because if they want to wait until the last zone, they can shockwave out and win by heal off.
Look, I am all for everything that Vico has been able to accomplish in this lobby so far, Jacob. The fact that he has converted this into a second place opportunity for him in Malabuka is incredible scenery. But now, with the full bag, Vico is left trying to just stay in alert position. Bolts is off on the hunt, but he's still staying right next to Acorn's side. They just have so much white heal ammunition. They don't need to rush it. Vico only has so many more options before he completely runs out of space to work with, as Acorn bolts, they continue to spray away at the builds. Nico doing everything in his power to try and stay alive. I fear we are only watching the inevitable unfold here, Jacob. Nico might be able to try and shift things up, but he's going to need to pull out all the stops here, and it doesn't look like it'll be enough. This bolt finally going in for the closing shot. The elimination's good to go, but we've got a victory royale.
From the backside of the mountain to the top of the summit, Acorn and Bolts have just won a game, and that's back-to-back with NA on top, and they have to be feeling out of this world, Frankie.
Acorn and Bolts, the Cardinals were saying, you must be feeling out of this world with that victory royale.
Yeah, very ecstatic. We pulled every zone, you know, very lucky, but of course, Acorn was dealing very well. Nice height tarps, and one of the best duos in the world, so nothing's gonna stop us.
You're looking like it. Acorn, sometimes the commentators say that you take a little bit of time to warm up on day one. You don't have day one here. You've only got 6 games to do it, but it looks like you're feeling yourself right now.
I mean, yeah, I seen Corn Rapid win a game. You know, we had to follow them. And they on top, baby, let's go.
Have you guys all had a conversation in North America back in the player lounge to say, you know what, let's do this, let's take this away from Europe?
Oh yeah, we're all doing it every day, you know, and Twisted Minds, of course, the best orgs in the world.
Well, guys, you definitely gave us all a show. We're going to head to a break. When we come back, game number 3.
Então esse é o intervalo, né? Vamos ficar aqui, né? Esperar o intervalo. Bom, eu vou ter que esperar. Já vocês não, né? Mas vamos ficar aqui esperando. Darme. Mano, tô vendo o vídeo pra postar aqui pra vocês. E é short, tá? All going night.
Fortnite fam, welcome back to the FNCS Summit. We got Mini Miner, we got Love in 2K, and for a moment, I'm gonna put my NA bias mask on. NA on top, baby! NA on top!
I got you.
All right, sorry about that. I'm going to take my NA bias mask off. Crazy stuff. Big W here. Mini help.
Big W here for...
Look, I'm happy for my boys, because it's a great win.
Yep.
It's great, and they needed that, especially with all the question marks around them being NA's last hope. It's a good sign of what's to come, I think, for those two.
Yeah, really nicely played from these guys as well. I think they identified, of course, that the zone was going up on this absolutely gigantic hill. They took height really early, and I think if we've watched a lot, if you guys at home have watched a lot of Fortnite at the higher level, we've seen that if you take height early, Levin, it doesn't usually go too well. But because these guys still had so many of those builds, and more importantly, all the teams down below spent so many builds trying to get up that hill, they could just ride out for success here and did really well at it.
Yeah, and ultimately a comfortable game for these two, right? It's a very favorable zone. They didn't have to spend much of the game sort of running about all over the map, and it sort of gives them that sort of momentum as they get into the end game to play for height. We know it's something that Acorn can do, even if it isn't what his go-to strategy is. And, you know, Bolt said it in my interview with him. He believes Acorn is the best IGL in the world. That confidence to follow him and then deliver with the fragging, it's a great combination.
Dude, so sick to see this, right? Like, again, and what's tough, right, is there are so many incredible, like, any duo in this lobby could win, and I'd be just amped, right? Because this is kind of like a sneak peek at what like a globals could look like. So to see them come out on top, massive stuff. Take a look at these beautiful standings. Yapto and Pans are currently sitting in that #1 spot. What's interesting as well, the teams just in front and just behind them fall early on, right? This is a huge window for them to make a move. And man, with duos like this, Mini, the moment you give them that opportunity, they will strike.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I mean, they're making the most of those games, those early 2 games right there. 17 eliminations for them as well, Evan. This is a duo we've seen on EU performing very well here as well.
I think Zeke might have pulled the trigger on the whole NA on top thing a bit too soon, better, because that was an EU team on top, broski. What's going on?
No, my NA bias mask is currently off.
Okay,
that's right.
It's fallen off quite quickly, actually. What happened there?
Let me come back to EU. It's all good. I'll come back over. Yeah, anyway, seeing them all go crazy as well. And even in those last final moments, right? Seeing Vico super down low as a solo. Again, all of these singular interactions, these little decisions that every single player makes will make a difference, right? Because remember, we're just trying to stay in that top half of the leaderboard right now, and clutches like this are what we need.
Well, it makes a difference. I mean, remember at the beginning of the day, we were saying, Vico, you posted on socials, you were nervous at the beginning of the day, right? We're not seeing too many of those nerves right here, and a really, really important game for these guys. You saw it on the leaderboard right there. They jumped up 10 places by getting the 2nd place right here, and it wasn't easy for them, Levin, on the side of this hill. I just mentioned it. All those teams down below, these guys are one of them. Low on the materials, had to rely on their aim, which Vico is very good at. And ultimately
a very, very good game for them, making advantage of that. So.
Yeah, and I'm glad we get to see Vico strut his stuff a bit, because really and truly, there are not many players on this stage that are better fraggers than Vico. He is one of the elitist in the world, and if he was feeling any nerves like you were alluding to, Mini, they surely are gone now after that game.
I love that he mouthed it. I don't know if you can tell. He said, I tried. And you know,
really did.
He did. In that circumstance, man, you look up, you're like, yeah, this is a little bit, because Old Man Mountain did take his toll. But again, we just seen a handful of really good games back to back. And then we'll be okay, right? So I'm excited to see them. I appreciate that Vico, of course, he's pretty emotional, but he's very content. He's like, hey, he wasn't even like, oh man, I can't. He was like, yeah, I tried. You know, I did what I could. Sky and Scroll as well, another EU team though, going crazy. I'm excited to see more from them. But man, again, it's just like with so many names in this lobby, dude, it's just like, it's like a feast, right? It's awesome.
I was glad to see them make it a bit deeper, because that first game, Mini, it scared me.
Yeah.
We obviously watch EU, right, together.
A lot.
We're not used to seeing Sky and Scroll not deep into an endgame, and so I thought, I hope that the occasion hasn't gotten to them. Clearly not, because this is exactly what Sky was doing when they won an FNCS on the EU. Clutching up in these endgames, in big moments, in uncomfortable situations, hitting shots like this. And again, we want to see more of it today.
And this is one of the things we were talking about all season long. Both of them are so good individually that no matter what one of them goes down, the other one still has all of the firepower necessary to clutch up. And that's what Sky just did right there. Yes, of course, it wasn't an amazing game for them. Yes, of course, they're not moving their way up in the leaderboard absolutely massively. But what is important for them is just keeping them in the tournament, keeping them inside, of course, that contention for the top 25. Because realistically, I mean, we expect these guys to qualify through. So when they make it to endgame as a duo, when the zone is on a massive hill, still expect to see these guys on top.
And earlier with Tokata and, of course, Vivid, we kind of talked about the meta within the meta. What are you guys seeing now with about a minute out? Obviously, kind of what you called out, Sky and Skrull, dude, we're seeing them win games, we're seeing them go crazy, but suddenly we're finding ourselves in a solo clutch situation. It's got to be the quality of this lobby, right?
It's difficult. It's also very difficult to sort of predict what's going to happen in these lobbies. You play EU, you play the scrims, you know the teams around, you know how your drop spot's going to work, how they play Surge, and that's a key element of their strategy. But when you come up in this lobby against all these other regions playing their own styles, their own strategies, ultimately it's tough for them to predict what's going on.
I think as far as meta within meta goes, right, one thing we saw in Game 1 and here in Game 2 is teams who maybe we don't traditionally consider height teams being opportunistic, being aggressive towards height when getting favorable zones, right? Cold and Rapid, again, it was a zone where they had a bit more to work with than the rest of the lobby. They thought, let's take height. Same thing with Acorn and Bolts there. If you are a team who maybe you don't usually play height, if you had a favorable zone, maybe you do have to go for it.
Yeah, man, again, it's with the top 25, you know, we just need those few games. I'm almost wondering, like, is there still a bit of those nerves? I know we're only 2 games in, but we're almost halfway through, right? We need that pop-off game.
Well, that's the thing. You have to throw the nerves out the window now as we get on to the rest of this tournament. If you need a win, you need a big game, height ultimately still is a very, very good way of going about that. Even if a lot of the other teams aren't playing it, it almost gives you that green light. But of course, if you're one of those teams that are outside of that top 25, so many other teams will be thinking to do the same. And that's when it becomes really messy, especially with these overdrive grenades. Anything can happen. So it's a bit tame right now, but of course, we'll see how things develop.
I'll be honest. I'm looking at these guys on our screen here. Deemish, Dom.
Yeah.
I think I saw, shout out to my guy Spudson, I think I saw him talking about them where he was talking about all the different EU teams that people have been bigging up going into the competition, right? People are looking at Vico Malabuka, Shark and Teeny, Sky and Skrull. Why are we not talking more about Dom and Deemish? I think they've had, I guess by their standards, maybe a slightly more quiet year compared to the quality you'd expect for them. But you can never count these guys out because every time people did over the course of last year, they overcame expectations. And I think there's a good chance we see them do that today.
Yeah, and I was speaking to their coach, Sven, and he was saying, of course, they've had a few issues. Of course, the drop spot situation this season's been really difficult. They've had to switch around. They haven't found that home. And even this weekend, they've had to switch drops as well. Of course, they're now going towards that west side of the map. And I think the key word that I use to describe these guys, particularly this season, is just adaptability. Every single time they try and change something up, they try something new. They're just such a great team together. Of course, Sven's going to be helping with that so much as well. It just seems to work for them, and that's such a valuable asset to have in this lobby in particular because, again, as I mentioned earlier, you don't know what things are going to happen, you don't know who's going to be rotating where, so if you can have that adaptability, it's going to pay dividends.
I have decided to be the designated vibe assessor and vibe monitor at the LAN. You know, watching every player's vibe, figuring out who's comfortable, who's maybe a bit nervous. Every time I've seen Deemish and Dom, they just look comfy. They don't look like a young team who has only ever played at one big LAN and maybe are still feeling a bit nervous. They just seem like ready for this occasion, and that, you know, goes a long way in these types of cups.
That's interesting, Lovin, because even at the beginning of the show, when you guys had that opportunity to kind of talk with different players, there was several that were kind of like, hey, this kind of feels like home. This kind of feels like I've been here before, or I have been here this many times. Like, that is such an advantage, right? For some of these players seeing their first LAN, they're thinking, this crowd is really loud. This desk isn't my desk. I have this comfort level at home that isn't here.
Yeah, I think the beauty of us being, you know, another year into VF and CS is earlier on, right? We used to be at these events and we used to go, half the lobbies never played at a LAN, right? And it's like now you sort of look at people and you're like, no, these guys have been here, right? And you do feel that comfortability. You're right. I think it goes a long way. You don't have to think about, oh, am I going to be all right? Am I going to be nervous? Like, you just know what you need to do on the stage.
Look at this leaderboard. I just looked down. I took a little look. Benno, Curb, up 9 places in 9th place right now. It's crazy, you know, when you start to look at the disparity of the points, crazy. You're like, oh, yeah, Panzer 172. What the heck? 10th place, 76. Even Darkos and Minori there. You know, these games will go any which way. But to see Curb and Benno, dude, you know, we just love Benno. We're Benno stands here.
I don't love Benno anymore.
Oh, sorry about that.
He's coming for my job. All that analysis he was doing, bro.
I was shaking.
When I saw him reach for that telescope, I said, I am finished.
Yeah, he was like, can I draw it? I was like, oh, he wants to be a commentator. He's trying to be an analyst.
He might as well have said, oh, sorry, can I take your job? Instead of saying, can I draw? Because, I mean, that's what he is, though. He's a great mind in the game, right? Yeah. And I think that's absolutely crucial in terms of Curve's development as well. We've seen him just rising to the occasion time after time, and being with someone like Benno, it's going to pay dividends for him as well.
Fantastic stuff, guys. I'm getting word. The next game is ready to go. So, casters, take it away.
With EU on top of the leaderboard, NA winning back-to-back games, I had to invite a little friend on over to let us know what he's thinking about the action.
Listen, man, I was feeling too energized after watching those first 2 games that I had to go ahead. I had to jump on with my pals right here and get into the mix and see what's going to be happening live.
If this guy sees NAC succeeding, all of a sudden he wants to keep the yap going. Vivid, how many teams are you going to big up here? But we're going to find out in Game 3. Ready to go.
I'm going to be hyping all of the teams while I'm up here, taking the opportunity to call out all of the boys. But we know kind of where the focus has been in the early game. I feel like Wonky Land, we got to go ahead and mention that. We got to go ahead and take a little peek that way, because if we take a look at the score overall, it's got to be 1-1. But a quick moment before we jump over there, Champ and Flixie on the other side of the map.
Yep, 2-0 off spawn at the new Sanctuary. There was a couple of scares in Game 1 where after those eliminations, Chap did go down, but Flixie picked him right back on up. He said, no, I'm not ready to have you go down just yet. But they get beat. They get beat by a long shot by Romero and Lewa.
Lewa and Romero have been waiting for the opportunity to strike back. They've really got to get some points building on the board, and they need it to start now before we're done with the halfway point. But trouble is still striking everywhere else. Agers and Ritual, they are chasing down Cooper, Reed, Higgs, Clicks, being absolutely ran down by Teeny and Shark. There is no escape. Vivid, you might have picked the wrong opportunity to jump on here.
Trouble in paradise. If you take a look over how good Clicks and Higgs have been doing all spawn over the past couple of days, the confidence is probably what led them to actually make the final decision to land at Wonky Land. But I can't lie, when the stakes matter, when everything matters here on the upper bracket, man, falling short.
Yeah, let's see how this off-spawn fight actually went. I did see some third-party shots coming into the mix, but Higgs gets beat off-spawn for the floor loot. Teeny takes him down. He's trying to run away, but eventually it gets all cut short. An interesting decision, though. We did not see them try to chase down Clicks as a solo, so we can see the return of Higgs.
They know that there's just too many other opportunities here, but Agers first, he's going to look to bring down Reed. Cooper somewhere left stranded now. What was originally just, pleasant vibes between the two NA teams has immediately turned into a clash here as Ritual and Agers, I feel like they're on the hunt right now for Cooper.
I mean, they should be, right? Maybe they're a little bit jealous. Hey, listen, this duo has landed at our same drop spot. They're a little bit higher up on the leaderboard. Nah, we got to take the fight to them. So Latte landed up there. We can kind of see how that one is painted out. Cooper obviously going to be wanting to run away, but it looks like Jacob, Ritual, and Agers are kind of on the hunt. They might have a little bit of information as to where he is currently at.
Yeah, they just realized they just want to make sure he's pushed far enough away so he can't sneak in and loot the north side of Latte Landing. So they're going to go ahead and work their way from the north all the way down to the south. And because they already have the early sense of the zone pulling towards the north, they're not in a hurry either. And this is one of the biggest changes to Latte Landing. With the golden fishing spots, it's almost a guaranteed chance that they're able to get some sort of gold loadout.
Other teams are still looking to try and seal their own fates with these early off-spawn battles. Golden Knight looking to disengage. Tinka resigns. They don't want to draw any third-party intervention here, and they're already looking to just try and create a little bit of space here. Going to start cranking up, but there's only so much material left for them to work with here at New Sanctuary. They're going to have to eventually look for either a fight and a refresh or just a full retreat here, but it's going to be tough because Chat Flixie, they look like they had primary control in New Sanctuary.
Kind of channeling that aggressiveness that we were talking about earlier on, right? Brazil they love to play that aggressive game. We've heard it in interviews. It feels like the region itself just plays so fast, so aggressive, and then when you show up here on LAN, everything kind of slows down. So there's going to be a big adjustment here for duos like Gone and Knight. As you can see, they did try to go ahead and push Rezons and Tinka, but quickly being held off, and once they kind of reassess, they're like, wait a minute, we do not have those materials to continue to play the way that we want to. Full reset, and they